Right now, we want to bring in our panel. We have Aaron Klein. He is the Mideast Bureau Chief and Senior Investigative Reporter for Breitbart. We also joined by Jackson Richman, Washington Correspondent with the Jewish News Syndicate. Aaron, I want to start with you. Is there any other way to look at what's been going on and the back and forth right now in terms of the accusations that Iran is behind all these attacks? Is there another way to look at this other than to say that Iran really is just trying to get back and to show the U.S. your maximum pressure strategy? Yeah, it might be working, but we're going to show you how vulnerable you are and how vulnerable the world's oil supply is.
I mean, I think that it's clearly very likely the case. I mean, do we really trust what the Iranians are saying? They're denying involvement here. They're the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. They've been caught so many times hiding their nuclear infrastructure from the United Nations and international inspectors. They don't have any credibility, and they have not only quite a bit to gain from playing hardball here, they even told the world before that they were going to do something like this. And extremists have a history of announcing what they're going to do beforehand and then actually doing it.
Well, Jackson, it's clear that Iran has a very clear strategy here. They want to create unrest in the Gulf. They want to create unrest in the oil market around the world. And they want to blame the United States sanctions for all of this. Now, the question is about the U.S. strategy. Is it coming out clear out of the White House? Do you think there's a need maybe to turn to the U.S. Congress in case the next step involves military action?
Many are saying that the administration should turn to Congress. Democrats have been calling on the administration to come to Congress in order to get authorization to go to war. Technically, the authorization for the use of military force from 2001 does not cover Iran. However, the administration is trying to go around that. And what the U.S. is trying to tell Iran is that you cannot block navigation through our seas, and you cannot sponsor terrorism, not just in the seas, but also on land, whether it be Syria or Yemen. And overall, this is, as you mentioned, part of the administration's maximum pressure campaign.
Now, let's bring Aaron back in. Iran claims that the evidence provided by the United States here is unsubstantiated. And once again, they've categorically rejected everything. The video that was released, the new images that were released, I'm sure also, which show a better shot of that gaping hole on the side of the Japanese tanker. And here are the pieces which the U.S. Navy says came from the limpet mine that was put on the side of the tanker. But the German foreign minister says that he wants more proof of Iran's role here. He says the video is not enough. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, some nations here that have their own interests when it comes to finances and different deals with Iran, I think that you do have to question the motivation of some of those countries. Germany has billions and billions of dollars at stake here. The European Union also, many EU states have a lot financially to gain from the international nuclear accord with Iran. So questions need to be asked. By the way, Germany also refuses to call Hezbollah, which is outright a terrorist organization. They refuse to name them a terror group. Japan here, an ally of the United States, but they're also involved in brokering the international nuclear accord and a possible update to it. So I think they sort of want to toe the line of not coming out and saying that Iran was behind this for their own reason. They want to stay neutral. So a lot of questions need to be asked here. There are interests, but to trust Iran with zero credibility is, at this point, dangerous.
All right, gentlemen, stay right where you are. We want to discuss further the two-state solution issue. Let's bring back our panel, Aaron Klein, Mideast Bureau Chief and Senior Investigative Reporter for Breitbart, and also Jackson Richman. He joins us from D.C. He's the Washington Correspondent for the Jewish News Syndicate. Jackson, I'll start with you. Jared Kushner, he said it many, many times in the past that the White House peace plan is not going to speak in these terms of the two-state solution. He said it means one thing for the Palestinians and another thing to Israel. Plus, when you have the U.S. ambassador and a U.S. special envoy to the Middle East saying that they think that Israel has the right to annex parts of the West Bank, it's very clear that they don't see the solution based on the 1967 border. Do you think the Trump administration is correct about this? Is it about time that new suggestions will be made, since the two-state solution got us nowhere so far?
A couple months ago, Jared Kushner said that the two-state solution has failed, and the Trump administration is taking a different approach by rolling out the peace plan in steps. First, with an economic summit in Bahrain, and then dealing with the political components. Because as President Trump said while he was on the campaign trail, the U.S. should be neutral, and that ultimately any solution to the conflict has to be decided between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So what I think the U.S. is trying to do here is set the foundation for the two sides to ultimately come to a deal.
Aaron, do you think that the U.S. wants the EU to be involved in the political part of this process right now, especially given their preconditions to enter some kind of talks here, that they want the two-state solution?
I mean, when we talk about the two-state solution, let's not, by the way, forget that one of the main reasons it hasn't worked is because the Palestinians have not accepted a state. I mean, they've been offered it so many times, they rejected it every single time. The EU, when they talk here about international parameters, I'm not exactly sure what that means. Does it mean because the international community talked about the eastern sections of Jerusalem, all of them as being quote-unquote occupied? That would include the historic Jewish quarter of the Old City. That would include the Western Wall, the Temple Mount, the holiest site in Judaism. So there are questions of what that means. Also, they have referred to the entire West Bank as quote-unquote occupied, and Israel has a very different idea about that, including, historic main settlement blocks there. So I'm not so sure that the same old formula as represented by the EU is what the Trump administration necessarily wants or needs right now. They're injecting something new because not only it hasn't worked, again, the Palestinians have rejected all offers, and they're not even coming to the bargaining table now as well. So they're turning instead toward economics.
Really quickly, do you foresee Israel and the deal of the century becoming a hot issue in the 2020 race? President Trump just launched his campaign officially yesterday, and we know that there's a new timeline now for the unveiling of the peace plan, which will collide with that.
I don't think that they're unveiling the plan at all with regard to the timing of the campaign. It's more obviously they were about to do it, and then Israel went to elections. At the same time, the base of the Trump supporters and of the Republican Party strongly supports the Jewish state. I've gone to so many Trump rallies, and let me tell you, with tens of thousands of people, one of the things that every single time gets the most applause is when Donald Trump talks about moving the embassy to Jerusalem. So I think it's going to play very well if Trump continues to support Israel, and he supports Israel anyway.
Jackson Richman and Aaron Klein, thank you for your time.